Yeah.
Okay, very good. So, first of all, I'd like to thank you guys for taking time to attend the webinar today to see the key data dashboard and what it does. And most of all, I'd like to thank BookingSync for the opportunity to partner with them. They have been fantastic. We partner with a lot of property management systems out there, and BookingSync by far has been one of the better ones to work with. They've built a tremendous API for us so that we're able to show you guys your business intelligence and your analytics, as well as some additional benchmarking data that I'll share with you briefly here. But again, just can't speak enough to the BookingSync team and us at Key Data are very appreciative. I know when we announced our partnership and finalized the API and we turned everything on last week, we've received over 24 new BookingSync clients just in the last 5 or 6 days. So that's been very exciting for us. Without further ado, I'll start. So the first thing I'd like to do is talk a little bit about the API and how it works. So for those of you that have historical data, after you sign up, the first thing we'll do is activate the dashboard in the background. We'll extract your historical data. We like to have 2 years, but we can work with whatever it is that you have. And from that point going forward, every 12 hours, we'll go back into your BookingSync account and take any new data and refresh the API. So any changes in the previous 12 hours will be brought into the dashboard. So twice a day, we will update the data. And it just continues to work like that. It's absolutely nothing that you guys have to do on your end. The dashboard is iframed into BookingSync, so it's very, very nice and very minimal work on your end to get started. So the first thing I want to look at the dashboard here is over on the right-hand side is the filter ribbon. Now, this stays pretty consistent throughout the entire dashboard. And I'm going to start here with the markets. So for those of you that are in multiple markets, we can set it up so that you can see from a holistic view from your company, or if you're, like I mentioned, in multiple markets, we can drill down to look just at a very specific market. An example would be as if you had properties in Dublin and in Glasgow, as an example, and you wanted to look at just Dublin's data, you would be able to segregate it that way. For those of you that are only in one market, we look at it from the holistic view the entire time. Excuse me. The next thing, I want to change one thing here before I go forward. Take that out. Just go 360. Apply. Okay. So while that's refreshing, I'll continue to talk then about the calendar functionality. So because we take the historical data out of BookingSync, we then give you the ability not only to look historically to do year-over-year comparison or month-over-month, whatever it is you'd like to do, but we also give you the ability to look current and in the future. So you're able to look at this year versus next year if you'd like. The thing I want to point out that's critical in this configuration here is I'm looking at all of 2019 as of today, today's date. And I'm looking at all of last year, 2018, as of the same day of the week last year. This ensures that when you run your reporting, that you're looking at apples versus apples, so exact year-over-year dates, which is very important. We give you some additional functionality in the calendar, things like some default views that you can look at. You can also create custom date ranges for looking month over month, week over week, however you'd like to do that. And then one of the things our clients really enjoy is the ability to create custom seasons in the settings area of the dashboard. It's very simple to break your year out into seasons if you'd like, or it could even be a major event that happens in your market year over year. So here we have spring break, which is big in the United States for 2019, and they also have 2018 and 2020 already created. So they can do historical or they can do this year versus next year, right, to look at pacing and so forth. So the calendar functionality is very critical. The next thing is there are 32 KPI reports in here for you to look at. And I'll scroll through them slowly, but it'll give you an idea just to the depth of which you can look at your data. And I know many of you probably have some questions on these KPIs, and I know we're going to have a QA time at the end, and I'd gladly share with you anything you'd like to know about these KPIs. But I'm going to stick to a few through this demo. So there's the KPIs, and then you have the ability to filter your inventory. So let's just say you want to look at your 1 and 2 bedroom properties. You can do that just by selecting them. You can look at unit type. Is it an apartment or a house or a condo or a townhome? You have that ability. By how many it sleeps, you can also look at it that way. And you can do amenities, and you can do, I'm going to jump to custom unit groups. So the other nice thing our clients like is the ability to create a custom unit group. And you may have different applications for this. Maybe it's a star rating system, or maybe you just want to group all of your properties in Paris together by neighborhood. It's very simple to do. You give a group a name, and you drag and drop the properties that you want in that group, and you have a custom unit group. So a ton of functionality in this filter ribbon over here that allows you to really dig into your data to whatever depth you'd like to go. Now, the first thing I'm going to point out is the star over here in the top left. This star right here is what we call our key reports. And so the first thing we're looking at here, which is where you default when you first log into the system, is your company snapshot. Now, we've defaulted these 4 KPIs across the top here so that it's meant to be a look at the health of your company at any time that you choose to look at it, right? So we start with average daily rate. And if you remember over here in the filter ribbon, my calendar is all of 2019 as of today versus all of 2018 as of same day of the week last year. So in blue is this year's number, and in orange is last year's historic number. So, and then I can see my percent change on my average daily rate. This available occupancy is actually going to be name changed to adjusted paid occupancy. What this does is it actually takes out the owner nights and maintenance holds. So it's only reflective of the nights that you actually have available to sell, as of today, this year versus the same time last year. So it's really showing you your paid occupancy. So of the nights I've had to sell for the entire year of 2019, how much have I sold? Well, I'm at 45%, and I'm a small percentage above last year. We have RevPAR, which is a calculation of profitability. This number you would always like to see go higher. And for those that are unfamiliar with RevPAR, please feel free to reach out to me. I will provide you with my email contact information afterwards. It's a little bit of a lengthy discussion, and I don't have the time to take here to share with you that, but more than willing to. Just know that you always want that number higher than last year's number. Unit revenue is just your rent minus any extras. So there's no pet fees or cleaning fees involved in this. This is just your net or your gross booked revenue, the booking rate without the extras. Now, we do have other revenue KPIs that include the other revenue, which is your extras, and then, of course, total revenues as well. So when you look at these numbers in a line graph, you can see here that there was an increase in ADR from last year in orange to this year in blue. Well, anytime you increase your ADR, it's a little bit of a roll of the dice to know if it's going to pay off for you. The first KPI that you have to look at is that adjusted paid occupancy. Did it negatively affect what I have to sell or how much I've sold this year in blue versus last year in orange? So you can see a nice dip up here. And pretty much for the summer for this company, it pretty much flatlined and mimicked. So no, had no negative effect on my ability to book units. Then obviously you have to look on the financial side. Was my RevPAR higher than it was last year as a result of this? And you can see, yes, marginally it was. And then the last test is always looking at your revenue. And you can see in the header here that this company, as of today, this year, was at 48.2 million versus last year at 43. So just about a $5 million swing in revenue there for them. So yes, the ability to adjust the rate, increase the ADR, paid off for this company. So that's your company snapshot. The next one is your pacing detail. Now, as part of the program with key data, it's important for me to point out to you that we have a partner success team that is made up of revenue managers of the vacation rental industry with many years of experience in revenue management. And so that resource is available to you anytime you'd like to reach out to them to help you understand and learn the best practices of revenue management. And one of those is always when you're looking at pacing, it's nice to see it year over year, but I actually want to see it by the week. And what we teach in our revenue management side with our partner success team is to look for anomalies. So if you look at today's, the start of this week, this year, we're right here. So I need to look forward and I need to understand, why do I have a dip in my paid occupancy this year versus last year? And so because you're looking forward, it gives you the opportunity to address that. So we have actionable data, correct? So if it's a marketing thing, maybe I need to do an email push. Or if you look at your ADR this year versus last year, maybe you were a little higher this year and it might be forcing people not to book as much this year. So it gives you actionable data that you can use to better manage your business, right? The other thing I'd like to point out here, that you can add additional KPIs for the analytics. So here you can see on the screen, my primary KPI is that adjusted paid occupancy. And then below that, I've also added my rent revenue, my ADR RevPAR, my guest check-ins and owner check-ins. And how you see that is when you hover over the radio buttons. So I can see where I was last year with the additional KPIs, and then I can see where I am this year with those as well. So there is your pacing. This next one is the leaderboard. This one is used a lot amongst our clients. And what we do is we encourage you to sort this from your highest revenue producer working downwards to your lowest. And you can see over here for my filters or my calendar, I am set up again for all of 19 as of today versus all of 18 versus same day last week. So gives me the ability to look at my revenue this year versus last year and my percent increase or decrease. Now, a lot of our clients use this particular screen to do a revenue analysis. When you see a property like this that's down 19%, and then what you want to do is come across the top and look at your KPIs, comparisons. So I can see here already, I have sold of my paid occupancy, of the nights I have available to sell, I've sold less, 13% less, yet my revenue is still up 5%. Well, here's the reason for that. It's because I had an ADR increase of $300 per night this year versus last year. So the possibility that I out budgeted some of my repeat guests could be the reason for decline in my paid occupancy. And as you scroll across, there's more calculations here. My RevPAR is up. I can then see my guest check-ins this year versus last. And we can look at just the number of guest nights. Then we can look at owner nights and maintenance holds. And I can see that I have far less owner nights and maintenance holds this year than I had last year. Then I can see just owner nights. And a lot of times when you're looking at properties that have a significant decrease in revenue, in the rent revenue, this is a good example where this owner took 11 more nights this year than he did last year. And that could be the reason for their decline. And in total occupancy, you can see there's some additional maintenance nights as well. So that could be the reason that their revenue's off, right? So that's how this particular leaderboard is used to take a look at properties that are struggling and which ones are doing okay. So it gives you the ability to identify those and then hopefully have the ability to react to that. The next thing you can do, I'm going to show you this briefly here, is you can go into any specific unit in your inventory and you can see just this unit's revenue pacing for the entire year of 2019 as of today. So this is good information to have if you know you have an owner coming in to speak with you, to familiarize yourself with this. And then down at the bottom, we show you the details of the property and we give you the opportunity to actually add an annual revenue goal for each individual unit in your inventory. So here I can see what I've booked so far just in rent. Then I can see what my goal is, where I am to goal, and what I did last year. And then lastly, we drop a little map in of the property. Now, still staying inside this unit, I can also look at the reservations that I have on the books this year so far versus last year down below. And the data that's given here is pretty interesting. I can see that, let's get a good example here. So for this property, I can see the arrival date of February 9 and departing on February 20, see the booking source ID. I can see the when it was booked, and then I can see the booking window. So how many days in advance of this arrival day did they book this property? I can see it's a guest, that this is how much they spent for 11 nights, and they averaged $1,506 per night. Okay. The next thing we do, and this is important to point out as well, that when we turn on the API with BookingSync for your account, we don't extract any guest data other than their postal code or city and country in which they come from. And as a result of that, I can show you where your bookings came from for this property for last year versus this year. And I have more on that coming up. Now, this is another screen that's used a lot. You can see here, this is all 32 of the KPIs that we provide you for just this one specific unit, okay? And what's important to point out is that this property was filtered out to be an 8-bedroom house. So I have an internal rank, and this property is 1 of 11. So the 11 tells me that there's 11 8-bedroom houses in all of my inventory, and of those, this one's ranking 1 of 11 for RevPAR. I can see what my RevPAR was last year, my percent increase or decrease, and then I can see what the average of the other 10 8-bedrooms homes RevPAR is. Clearly, that's why this one is number 1. And that's for every KPI that we have in the dashboard. Now, moving on, I can then look at this property versus the other 10 8-bedroom homes, and I look at it for rent. Then I can see the adjusted paid occupancy. I can see the ADR, and finally, I can see the RevPAR for performance versus the other 10 8-bedroom homes that are down here in the orange. Okay, so very good data there. The next thing I'll show you is benchmarking. This is your local comp set, and what we've done here, and the way this works is when we have 4 companies in any given market, we can turn on local comparative data, okay? And so here in this case, your company would be in blue and your local market would be in green. And I can filter this, and I can look at any KPI that I choose out of the 14 that we offer here for benchmarking. So I can look at what's my local comp ADR for specifically for 2-bedroom homes, right? And that's a great way to measure yourself against your local market. And if you're doing things right, or if things are out of balance and you're below the local market, anyway, it's a great opportunity for you guys to see what's happening and how you're comparing to them. Now, another caveat, something that we're going to launch at the beginning of the year is going to be adding in the Airbnb and the HomeAway VRBO data on a separate line here. So let's just say, for argument's sake, this orange line would be Airbnb and HomeAway data. Now, it's going to come with a disclaimer. That data from them is not always 100% accurate. And so we won't suggest that you use it for pricing, but more for trend reporting. You can certainly look at the ADR, but I don't know that we would have the confidence to tell you to use that data from them to make rate adjustments. I think you're going to want to look more at your green line than you are VRBO and Airbnb. So having said that, it's a great tool for trending when we add this data line here for you. You can obviously see supply, you can see demand. So it will be of great assistance to you, not only to look at your local market, but then to see what the 2 big players are doing within your market as well. So that's the only place in the entire dashboard where you can see your local competitive set, and that's under benchmark. The last thing under this star report here is something we've just released, and it's owner reporting. So this is its first generation. So I'm sure we'll have many changes and additions to this, but for right now, we are showing how much rent has been collected on their property, this year compared to last year as the same day of the week last year, right? So apples to apples, and I can see what last year's total was. And then that gives me an indication of where we are now versus where we finished last year. And then I can see that adjusted paid occupancy. I can see the number of guest check-ins and guest nights, the owner nights and maintenance holds, and then the average length of stay. And then I'll drop that data into some bar graphs for you down below. So we can see rent this year in blue versus orange for last year. And then we can see owner nights versus guest nights, and then RevPAR. And then lastly, we show all of the reservations for this year as of today versus last year as of the same day for the owners to look at. Now, you can take things out of this. Right now, it's defaulted to put everything in, but if you did not want to share RevPAR in your owner reports, you can simply turn that off and apply it, and it takes it out as an example. And again, you can set date ranges however you like. So that's our first stab at owner reports. You can print them or you can download them as a PDF. It looks very nice that you can email. At the least, our clients that beta tested this found it very, very helpful for when they had face-to-face meetings with their owners. To prepare themselves for that meeting, they would look at the owner report to come up to speed on this so they could talk to the owner with some good solid data behind them. The next thing I'd like to show you is some analytical reports. So here we have our unit detail report. This is a very, very highly used dashboard analytic within key data, and I'll explain why. So you have your inventory over here on the left, and it'll be in alphabetical or numerical order. I've chosen to put in my rent revenue here, and then I can also add additional KPIs that will show at the end of the report. I'm going to change this to the current month, just to give you an idea of how folks are using this to help with rate adjustment. So here I'm looking at every Saturday in the month of September. Now this particular company runs 7-day minimum rentals. So you have so that's why they start on Saturdays. You can, obviously you can change this to a day view if you have shorter stay minimums. But here you can see those additional KPIs that I've added. One thing I need to point out to you is these blue bars. Here you have your owner nights or maintenance holds, right? So I'll change this to the day view. And then I'm going to scroll over towards the end of the month just to make it easy to see. And what I want to point out is the ability of this set color filtering button here. Here I have the ability to set this to equals and then to 0 and apply. Now what this is showing me by night of my availability. I know it's not a maintenance hold or owner night or it would be blue. So these are units that I have yet to book. So if you're sitting a week out and you still have all of this availability, this is an opportunity to look at your ADR, go look at your benchmark to see what your local competition's doing, and then decide if you need to make a rate adjustment to try to fill these properties last minute. So that's how a lot of our clients use this, especially in urban markets where they do a lot of nightly rentals, right, with no minimum stay requirements. So very, very good report there. The next thing I'll show you is how you can look at your properties by groupings. And here we're looking, we're looking at bedrooms. Sort that again. But you can look at it by sleeps, by unit type, and by custom unit groups if you set those up in this. So here we can see all my 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and right on down the line. Now, if you only have 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms, that's all you'll see here. And then, of course, you'll see your adjusted paid occupancy here. And again, with additional KPIs on the end, I can see how much of my 1-bedroom inventory have I sold so far this year? What was my average ADR, my average RevPAR? How much rent revenue have we booked so far? What's my booking window on the property? The average length of stay, and how many total 1-bedroom units do I have in inventory? So really neat way to look at the data here as well. I'm going to jump to a couple of additional things here. We do heat map by the postal code or city and country. Many things. So here we're just looking at bookings, and this does work internationally. So if I zoom in, I can start to identify where my majority of my bookings are coming from. So I can see Atlanta, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Nashville, Tennessee are some hot markets for me. The important thing to remember is I can filter this. So if I want to look at a specific season or a specific event that happens, I can set that date range and see where those reservations are coming from. And I can also filter my inventory. So if I want to see who's coming for a food and wine festival during Christmas week and who's booking my high-end units, I can see that data right now and see where those folks are coming from. So from a marketing perspective, it gives you the ability to target market. And we have more marketing functionality coming here in the very near future. The next thing we do is we actually heat map the revenue for you. So again, you can see Atlanta, Dallas, and Nashville are my top three. It looks like Houston's coming in close four. But again, the ability to filter and date range to see where your money's coming from for a specific time frame is really important. And then the next thing we do is we will take that data and we'll do either a reverse geographical lookup on the postal code, or if we have the city and country, we can drop it into a table for you that shows you your highest revenue producing market. Again, you can filter this by time of year, but this is for all of 2019 for this company. And you can see Dallas, Texas is the #1 market. They're 3.8% of their overall guests. They've spent about $1.9 million with us, an average of $4,435 per night. And they're 4.3% of all my rent revenue. And then conversely, you can see Atlanta brings more check-ins, but they spend less money, about $1,200 a night less than the Dallas market. So some good information there. Of course, you can export this and you can use the postal codes on your social media outlets for target marketing. Couple more things to show you here real quick. This is bookings by date. This is a reservations booking report that we've just recently added. And you can see if you look at my calendar over here, I'm looking at the last 14 days of this year versus the same 14 days of last year. So last year's in this light blue, this year's in the dark blue, and I can see last year's revenue here of 98,000 and this year's revenue of 132 on the same day of the week, last year in light, this year in dark, and it just goes backwards 14 days. If you look at the bolded header up here, you can see that in that last 14-day period, we booked $1.55 million in revenue. That's up 36.4% over last year. And I've made 438 reservations, which is up 22.3% for the same 14-day period last year. So some good data to have. This next one's very interesting. It is guest check-ins. And it's what you're looking at is guest check-ins by booking date. So again, if we look at our calendar, I can see bookings made in the last 7 days for arrivals coming in the next 6 months. And again, you can set these to whatever date ranges you want to look at, but it's looking forward for you and showing you what you have on the books now as far as for bookings that have come in the last 7 days. So you can see the bar graph here showing the number of bookings, and then the orange is showing you the revenue that you booked for that particular day. Then what I do is we drop it into a table for you so you can see, let's just look at this week right here. On the 14th of October or 12th of October, I have 14 check-ins for $31,000 in rent. They average $2,228 per stay and with an ADR average of $545. So that's a nice booking report that you will have access to as well. Two more things to show you before we'll wrap up and open up to Q&A. This is new. This is used, it's called a booking curve report, and it's used in the hotel industry as one of their top marketing reports that they look at. And so to explain this, what this is saying is for arrivals in the next 7 days, so between 11 of September and the 17th of September, when did people start to book to come to Paris for this week of the year? And if you look down here, you can see that the first booking for that 7-day period came in September 18th of 2018. And I can see I took 3 bookings that week for this time frame. And then the blue bar is taking all of the orange bookings in a cumulative value. So that's why the blue bar grows. Now, what this green line shows you is for marketing, when do you start to market Paris to the world for arrivals in this 7-day span? Well, this graph is telling me I should start to spend marketing money somewhere around the 1st of February. And you follow the curve and you can see that's where it breaks off and shoots sharply up to the left. So this green line is that indicator, because if you spend marketing dollars back here, you may have wasted them, or they might not have given you the ROI that you anticipated. And then lastly, we'll show you at the very bottom the last year's same 7-day arrival window and when they started booking. So it was actually about a month earlier last year that they started booking for that time frame. So very, very helpful for marketing. The last thing then is your marketing source. So if you're capturing your marketing sources when you take your bookings, or if it's done automatically in BookingSync, we list them over here on your left. And what's nice about this is you can set up a time frame for comparison if you'd like, and you can choose any of the 32 KPIs. And I can add additional ones down here at the bottom. I'll just drop these in real quick and apply them. And if I scroll, I can see those additional KPIs. So now I can see my marketing source, which in this case, this is this company's website. They've taken it, well, let me sort it by revenue to show you. So actually their their phone reservations are number 1, $21.5 million. And I can see that their website was 10, and then Verbo and some additional marketing stuff that they do internal and or additional third party. How many guest check-ins each one brings, how much revenue do they bring me in ADR, and what do they sell of my inventory for me, right? So very important data there. So that is a very fast demo of the key data dashboard. And now, Rusha, if we'd like to open it up to Q&A, or if you guys have questions first, please feel free.
I just want to say thank you very much for a great presentation. It was really neat to see all this data. Rob, thank you so much for your time. And yeah, like, we would like to open a Q&A. Like, if you guys have any questions about that, let us know right now. So yeah, we are ready.
It's open, so if you have any questions, you can just unmute and go for it.
Feel free. Well, if there are no questions, would just like to thank everyone for their time. And my email is rob.johnson, JOHNSON, at keydata-dashboard.com. Again, rob.johnson at keydata-dashboard.com.
I'm sorry, Rob, do you hear me? I'm sorry, Rob, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, so Emil is asking a question, how much does it cost? Yes, he's unable to unmute himself.
Okay, that's a great question. So in our partnership with BookingSync, if you have 100 properties or more, it's a flat rate of $200 US per month. And if you have less than 100, it's $50 US per month.
Emil, do you have any questions about it?
Oh, that's clear. So I guess it's not per rental; it's just a fixed whether I have 1 or 50 or it's the same price.
That's correct.
Okay.
And another question is do the other companies have a visibility on the data, on property managers' data?
Not specifically on any one company's data, right? If we go back to the benchmarking and you see how we post the data, it's all aggregated and anonymized and put into the line graph or bar graph. So it's impossible to see any one company's data. Obviously, you get to see your own in the blue, right, versus your local market. So this is how the competition's data is provided. That answer the question?
Yes, great, thank you. And also, do we get a sample size of what the market is, the comparables?
Yes. Thank you for asking that question. I failed to point that out. At the bottom of the benchmarking chart, you can see, so the way we've done it so far is you have yourself, your local market, your region, and then even down to the neighborhood level, like we have in this particular market here with this watercolor neighborhood, but I have to have enough data in like a neighborhood area to be able to provide that. But so you can see at the bottom that for the region, there's 57 property managers with 11,650 properties. On the local market, I have 21 property managers with 1,000 or 1,150 properties. And on that neighborhood level, I have 6 property managers with plus or minus 50 units. Yeah. So yes, you can see. Now, the one thing I don't know to follow through on that question, when we add the HomeAway and the Airbnb data, I don't know if we're going to have unit count. We're just about to launch that here in the first part of November in the States. So it's very early on the development side, but I'm assuming we'll probably try to pull at least the number of units for supply numbers by bedroom size.
Lovely, thank you.
I guess we are at the end of our webinar. Rob, I think you are okay if anyone could email you.
Yes, absolutely. So yes, we have sales and support, and it's support@keydatadashboard.com and it's sales@keydatadashboard.com.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye.